Mark, you're here for your 11 o'clock with Nate.
Yes, I am.
Can I get you a cup of coffee?
No, I'm in good shape, thanks.
All right, I'll tell Nate you're here.
Thank you.
Hey Mark, how's it going?
Good, Nate. How you doing?
How's the family?
Great.
You ready to get to it?
I am.
Let's head back to the conference room. Whoa, 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 what do you got there?
My swords.
What'd you bring your swords for?
You told me you're going to show me how to achieve victory before fighting, and I thought we might have to fight.
Financially speaking, of course. You know the rules. Come on, Mark, hand them over. We'll give these back to you afterwards. Come on back, let's go. How to achieve victory before fighting, financially speaking, of course. Before we dig into today's discussion, I want to give a story that's a bit of a backdrop to what we're going to talk about. In mid-2011, I had the great fortune of meeting a man who became a close friend of mine. And at the time, I did not know him. I was seated next to him at a fundraiser, and we began talking, and as guys tend to do, our conversation drifted from sports to hunting and fishing to eventually investing. And one of the things he told me was that he first began investing in the mid-1990s, and for a number of years he was doing well. And then 2000, 2001 rolled along, and the economy began to take a dive, and with it, so did his investments. And when that happened, he got nervous and he got scared, and he pulled his investments and his money out, sold all his investments and pulled his money out at a terrible loss. And then the economy eventually began to improve again, and he saw that people were making money, so he got back into investing. And then 2008 rolled along, and I don't have to remind you about that year, and his investments began to decline, and again he got scared, nervous, and near the bottom he pulled his money out at a terrible loss. And our conversation was right on topic with a study that was published in 2011 called the Dalbar Study. And I recommend that you Google it. It's a good study to read. It is called the Dalbar Study, D-A-L-B-A-R. And the Dalbar Study looked at investor performance over the past 20 years. It concluded in December of 2010. And what it found was that the S&P 500 returned an average rate of return of 9.14%. And then they looked at the average equity mutual fund investor, and they found that the average equity mutual fund investor only got an annual return of 3.27%. Why? Well, what they found was the major difference was human emotion. My friend was no different than most people out there. When the market was roaring, they were all excited and they were lining up to dump their money in. And when the market was pulling back, they got scared and they pulled their money out. They were doing the opposite of what everybody knows they should be doing. What did Warren Buffett say? He said, be greedy, or actually he said, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. That is much easier said than done. So today's discussion is for those people who are adverse to volatility. And if you're adverse to volatility, by no means should you be ashamed. I am a conservative guy. I tend to have more conservative investments for my own. But one of the things we look to do is how do we help take human emotion out of investing? Because if we're relying purely on human emotion, we are going to do the opposite of what we should be doing with our investments. And for today's conversation, we are going to call upon an old sage known as Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu was an ancient Chinese military strategist. He wrote a book called The Art of War. And if your job or profession is anything related to business, you may have read this book. This book has been used in a variety of business environments, anywhere from management to finance to you name it. One of the things that Sun Tzu said was that a wise fighter fights only after victory has been found. The fool fights first and then looks for victory. Isn't that true with many of the ways we are taught to save and invest? Many of us rush into an investment and with the hope that it will go up, rather than waiting for an opportunity that we're pretty confident it will go up. And the way that the average person saves for retirement is probably through a 401k or IRA or some other investment vehicle. And oftentimes, more times than not, those investment vehicles are funded from a paycheck, meaning that it is taken out of the paycheck before you actually cash the check, and it's invested directly into the investment. So when we purchase into our investments, or when we buy into our investments, it is purely based on the pay cycle of your company. It is a shotgun approach to funding an investment. And there is nothing wrong with that, because if a person's saving, I'm clapping my hands. That is awesome. What we find, though, is that it might not be the most efficient way to fund an investment fund. The fact that you're doing it is great. If you're looking for a slight edge, then you could do it a little bit differently, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is how to change the mindset so that when the market does experience those pullbacks, and it's going to do it again, we have to be ready for that, and we have to look at that as an opportunity. But we also have to create an opportunity where we can capitalize on that when that chance happens or when that opportunity presents itself. I always relate it to, let's say that you love hamburgers. And as a matter of fact, you eat hamburgers 4 days a week. We don't want to tell your doctor that. But if you loved hamburgers that much, would you want the price of beef to go up or down? You'd want it to go down, wouldn't you? And if it went significantly down, you'd probably load up your freezer. That's the way we want to look at our investments. It could be if you have, if Macy's is your favorite department store and you love the clothes at Macy's, you might wait for a sale on Sunday before you go to buy that. That's the way we want to look at our investments. The way most people are taught to save and invest, again, it's through their paycheck, so it's a random approach. And what you're seeing right now, those yellow blobs there, or stars I guess they are the points which this particular investor, who by the way, this chart you're looking at is the S&P 500 over a period of time over the past year. This particular investor, if they were investing in a S&P 500 ETF or index, they are buying them at high points at that yellow point. So they're actually buying it at the highest point. They're assuming the most market risk during that time. Someone might say, well, that's fine. I want my money in there as soon as possible in the investment so it can begin working for me. Well, remember, that's not always the case. Variable investments do not grow in a straight line. If we're looking for a straight line growth, we want to move to a fixed investment. Variable investments do not grow in a straight line. Sun Tzu also said that the opportunity for victory will be provided by your adversary. Now, the stock market is not my adversary. It's not your adversary. It's not our friend. It's not our foe. It is a tool and nothing more. And we must understand that. The stock market will provide us with opportunities if we are positioned to capitalize on those opportunities. And what you're looking at now is this person, instead of randomly funding it from their paycheck, going directly into the investment, this person is creating what we call a margin of safety. They're waiting for their investment to pull back, to reduce in value, and their margin of safety can be anything, and they can set it themselves. They can wait for their investment to pull back 2%, 5%, or more. The more margin of safety or the greater margin of safety you create, the more chance you have of buying at a time that is lower. Just by creating a margin of safety, can we guarantee that your account will never go below? Of course not. But what we can determine is that more times out of not, we're buying in a period of when our investments have pulled back. We're buying on a sale. We're waiting for Macy's to go on sale. We're waiting for our investments to go on sale. That is when we enter. And what we find is interesting about that too is that there was a study done by Vanguard in 2012. And what they found is they took a historical backtesting return of nearly all scenarios, all period of time. And what they found was that dollar cost averaging, or the way that most people are taught to invest, saving from their paycheck directly into their investment, actually produce less return. And one of the reasons why is, or two reasons why, is, as we mentioned, it's a random approach to investments. And it can lead to owning actually more of the market. We're buying during high times. The second thing is there are more transaction costs. It's like when you pay your premium on your auto insurance. If you pay monthly, the insurance company tends to charge you more versus if you pay one lump sum at a time. Every time you're entering that investment, there is typically a transaction cost to that. So by purchasing less frequently with more amount of money, we're actually getting a better deal on it, and we're keeping more of our money. We're not giving that money away in the form of fees to others. Someone might say, I understand this concept. Sun Tzu was right. How do I structure my investments to do what you're talking about? Well, one of the ways we do that is we can continue to fund from our paycheck, believe it or not. And we can continue to fund based on when our employer pays us. That's actually a great way to do it because you don't have to think about it. It's always being done. But we're not taking the money and sending it directly to our investment. We're taking that money and we are going to send that to a cash account. It's probably a money market or something like that. It's going to earn a minimal rate of return, nothing that is we're going to get excited about. But the purpose of funding it into that cash account is not to create a situation where we can earn from that. It's creating a situation for opportunity, because we have set our margin of safety, and whatever investment we are in, we are waiting for that pullback, and we're waiting for whatever amount of pullback we determine, whether it's 2%, 5%, or more. That margin of safety happens, and all of a sudden that triggers that cash to go into our investment of choice, whatever that might be. And by doing so, we can take advantages of when the market pulls back. Most people are not positioned to do so. The market pulls back and we don't have any extra cash on the sideline to buy that investment, so we panic when the market goes down and we pull our money out of there. Let's change the scenario where we do have cash sitting on the sidelines, and when that market pullback happens, we get excited about that, because that's our chance to go get our investment at a sale. One of the things I want to thank today, or one of the people I want to thank today, is Mark Fickus. Mark Fickus of Jeromesville, Ohio. He owns Fickus Furniture. And if you're ever in need of any furniture, that is the place to go. He will take care of you. Mark is a great guy, family man. That business has been in his family for generations, and I promise you, you'll find no better service if you're looking for carpet, furniture, or anything like that than Fickus Furniture. You can reach Mark at Fickus Furniture by calling 419-368-6021. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I am Nate Crosby of Crosby Advisory. Always remember, your best investment is you.